Richie, we're going to talk a little bit about the Breeders' Cup Sprint, $2 million, 6 furlongs, which I think is an important part of the conversation. I'm a big fan of Elite Power. I think that he's been up against it a few times this year from a distance standpoint, from a pace standpoint, and I think he's going to appreciate the cutback. I've been wanting to talk to you about this because I know that you've had some experiences on horseback. What do you think about that theory that he'll actually be better going shorter?
Well, I agree with you. I think that it just intensifies his closing kick. To me, he is a true closing sprinter. And sometimes, those horses, they'll get 7/8, they'll get a little bit further, but you want to see the best of them. It's the 6 furlongs because they can really punch in. They usually get the right kind of pace to run into, and they only have to make that quarter of a mile run, and it's much more intense.
Obviously he banged heads with Gunite a few times this year. Gunite got the best of him last time that they met. But like we just talked about, that was at 7 furlongs. What is your feel when it comes to Gunite? 7 furlongs, 6 furlongs? What do you think kind of gives him his best chance of winning?
Well, I've always felt like he's, in their meetings this year, Gunite has had some tactical advantages. He's maybe a little handier, puts himself a little closer, and going 7/8, like in the forego, 23, 46 and 1, and he's just galloping upside the lead. That plays into his strength. In the 6 furlong Breeders' Cup Sprint, they're going to go quicker, and he's going to have to be, chasing a little bit. And I think that plays into Elite Power's hands because he's just going to sit back and be able to make that one punch when he's most effective. He's 4 for 6 at the distance. I think Elite Power really is aided by the turn back to 6 furlongs. And that maybe sounds a little bit counterintuitive, right? Because Gunite lays up closer. But I think if he's going to get that trip, it's going to be chasing a faster pace.
Well, I know people might accuse us of an East Coast bias because we were able to see Elite Power and Gunite a few times. But the West Coast has got a nice little hand as well with Dr. Shivel and the 3-year-old Speedboat Beach, who came back off of a long rest and ran extremely well against Dr. Shivel in the prep at Santa Anita. I think Speedboat Beach is sitting on a big race as an improving type.
Well, yeah, I think he has the most upside. I don't think we've seen all that he can be, where I think with a lot of the others, we've, seen the best they have to offer, which is outstanding and makes them contenders. But Speedboat Beach, he'll be making his 6th start in the Breeders' Cup. That race off the layoff, he was chasing Dr. Shivel and just couldn't get by him with the race under his belt. And again, maybe a move forward in him and probably a substantial move forward in him. He's very attractive. The thing that keeps luring me back to Dr. Shivel, though, is the fact that he's 4 for 6 at Santa Anita, and he's 6 for 9 and never off the board going 6 furlongs. And you've got to appreciate and admire that kind of consistency.
Richie, when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, I feel like, I'm a big believer in pace makes the race. But the Breeders' Cup Sprint, it always feels like horses that are forwardly placed, even if the pace is fast, that speed of the speed sometimes have an advantage. What is it about that race that you think kind of plays the horses that are forward?
Well, listen, anytime you're coming from off the pace, you're a little bit dependent on what kind of trip you're going to get, right? You don't want to go too wide because you're facing very, very good horses. And a lot of times just one little hiccup, you can't make it up. And then if you want to save ground and fight the inside, you've got to deal with kickback. And now some people, kind of discredit or discount kickback, but particularly in sprint races, and I can speak from personal experience, it comes back so hard. I mean, it pelts you. So therefore, some horses really don't handle it. They'll start climbing. And also then traffic. How do you negotiate your way through traffic? And it's the Breeders' Cup. Everybody's energy level is amped up. And they tend to be maybe a little bit more erratic in their moves. I think they've done something very smart, Breeders' Cup, and moving the Breeders' Cup Sprint late in the card, because it used to be the first race in the card and everybody's already amped up to begin with. And then you start out with this, basically mosh pit of a race, right? And nobody's correcting their horse leaving the gate and everybody's bouncing off each other. I think everybody's had a chance to settle into their rhythm, settle into their day, and they're not quite as animated, which the sprint's going to bring out anyway. Obviously starts are crucial, post positions are crucial. And this year's Breeders' Cup Sprint, I think, is a little bit different than in some past years. Of course, there's speed. They're the best sprinters in the world. I don't see that blazing, devastating speed that we can see signed on in some past years. So It's going to create less separation. The field's going to be more bunched and lend itself to more traffic and tougher trips.
Richie, I'm not going to put your feet all the way to the fire because I know we still got a little bit of time with the draw and let's see what happens. But I will put your feet to the fire a little bit. I'm going to make you pick between East or West Coast. I know you're one of the best New York breds I've ever met, but East or West Coast do you think will take this sprint?
Wow, that's such a tough question because I keep on going back to the two horses we talked about from the West Coast, Dr. Shivel and Speedboat Beach. But I'll be a little bit of a homer. I'm going East Coast.
Richie, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jonathan. Good talking with you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want more great content, choose one of the videos you see on screen now, or go to our website, inthemoneypodcast.com. And for even more, check out inthemoneypodcast.com/plus.